Hello, and thank you for joining me today for Real Estate, Religion, and You. My name is Dr. Sylvia Black, licensed real estate broker with affordable homes and apartments in Williamsville, and I'm licensed to preach and ordained as a minister. And I have my master's degree in sacred theological divinity. And I'd like to thank you for joining me today for Real Estate, Religion, and You. Thank you very much. Today I'd like to talk to you on a continued basis of my book, You're Fired, okay, which talks about handling the exit interview with grace. Okay. And this is the video right here. This is the video. Okay. Alrighty. And my name is, I'm licensed to preach and ordained as a minister. Have my master's degree in sacred theological divinity and licensed to preach. I have my real estate broker's license, and you can hit me up on YouTube at sblack3001, Facebook at Dr. Sylvia Black. My email is sblack3001@gmail.com. And thank you for that warm welcome, and I'd like to thank you for joining me today. Today I'd like to talk to you about how to sue your employer in court for wrongful eviction. Now, in some cases, you may have been wrongfully terminated. And there are laws that are governing hiring, even though it is an at-will employment in most cases, unless you sign a contract. Okay, most of the employment is at will, which means that the employer can fire you for any reason they want, and you can leave for any reason that you want. Okay? But, there's that word but, there are laws and regulations that employers must follow. Okay? In order to, certain things they cannot do, which is against the law. And a lot of times they don't know what those things are that they cannot do. A lot of times employers think that they can pretty much do anything they want, say anything they want, but that is not true. Okay? There are laws and regulations involved where organizations have to adhere to, and I'm going to talk to you on a few of those organizations, as many as we can cover in today's segment. Okay? And I'm glad for these laws, because I had actually contacted my last employer. I contacted a couple of organizations, and I'm going to contact some more of them to see if there's a way that I could sue. But I contacted a couple of them, and I do have a lawsuit against them for something that they said that they had no right to say. Okay, there was a man that lived in Alaska a couple of years ago. He sued for something that the employer said. He was an older guy, close to retirement age, and his supervisor said, if you don't retire, I'm going to fire you. And somehow that's against the law. He sued him, won $3.5 million. He's talking about he missed working. I'm going to say, okay, you give me the 3.5 and then you can go back to work. Okay. Now, like I said, there are organizations. There was one guy that actually, he was in, I don't know if he was getting fired or if he was in a meeting with them telling him about his performance. But he had some kind of mental disability but he still was able to work. But it was medication that he was taking. They had said something to him. He threw a chair, and they fired him, and he sued because his argument was that you knew that I had this type of affliction or mental disorder, and he won, you see. So we have to learn how to fight our battle in the courtroom, in the boardrooms, okay, in the classrooms, baby, and not on the street. No matter how hard it is to contain yourself and keep from beating the person up, knocking them in the head or what have you, or killing them if, some people might even have thoughts of murder. We have to learn how to fight our fight effectively. Now, it's really about the money, right? So if you had enough money to do what you needed to do, then you could go on with your life and you wouldn't need to work. So what? But you know whether you're wrongfully terminated. Some of the reasons, if you're doing things, like coming in late every day and just not doing the job that you're hired to do, there still may be a reason, that you can sue. It's called wrongful termination. Now, the first organization I'm going to talk about is EEOC. It stands for U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. It's a federal agency that administers and enforces civil rights laws against workplace discrimination. The EEOC investigates discrimination complaints based on individuals' race, color, national origin, sex, age, disability, genetic information, and retaliation for reporting, participating in, and or opposing a discriminatory practice. Okay, EEOC was established on July 2nd, 1965. Its mandate is specific under the Title 7 of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Remember Martin Luther King helped to establish this? The late Martin Luther King Jr. The Age Discrimination of Employment Act of 1967, the ADEA, the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA of 1990, the ADA Amendment Act of 2008, and the EEOC's first complainants were female flight attendants. Okay. So the EEOC, just, you can, if you feel that you have been discriminated on those bases, and you may not know if you have actually been discriminated against. So the best thing to do, if you feel that you have a case against them, okay, then you just write to this organization and you tell them what happened. And they'll be able to tell whether or not you've been discriminated against based on one of these particular, okay. Now, just to give you an example of a lawsuit, in September of 2012, Home Depot agreed to pay $100,000 to furnish other relief to settle a disability discrimination lawsuit filed by the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission excuse me, for an alleged failure to provide a reasonable accommodation for a cashier with cancer at its Towson, Maryland store, and then for purportedly firing her because of her condition. You see what I'm saying? The EEO seems to avoid having to file a lawsuit whether possible, and these tend to take years to work their way through the federal court system. When a lawsuit prevails, it may be important to remember that the relief granted will always exceed any monetary amount publicized, because the civil rights of nearly every member of the working population have probably been expanded in some way. Okay, so that's the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Okay, and now the next organization we're going to talk about is the NLRB, which is the National Labor Relations Board. The National Labor Relations Board is an independent agency of the United States government charged with conducting elections for labor union representation and with investigating and remedying unfair labor practices. Unfair labor practices may involve union-related situations or instances of protected concerted activity. The NLRB is governed by a 5-person board and a general counsel, which is the lawyer, all of whom are appointed by the president with the consent of the Senate. Board members are appointed to 5-year terms, and the general counsel is appointed to a 4-year term. The general counsel acts as a prosecutor, and the board acts as an appellate judicial body from decisions of administrative law judges. The NLRB is headquartered at 1015 Half Street, Southeast Washington, D.C., but they do have a local office here in Buffalo, New York, and they have over 30 regional, sub-regional, and residential offices throughout the United States. Okay? So that's good to know, my ladies and my brothers and sisters. If you feel that you've been wrongfully terminated, whether you feel you got a lawsuit or not, it's best to write to these organizations, because they can file a lawsuit. We're talking about getting paid, baby. We're not talking about no small claims court, okay? When one of these organizations intervened, there's big money, baby, because ain't nobody suing for no chump change. 10 grand, I make that in a couple of months, You know, some of these guys, you know what I mean? They want big money. And if you did something wrong, if something that you said out your mouth, like with the guy, with the case with the guy who was in Alaska. You know, the man said it out of his mouth, and he was able to prove that that was the case. He said, you know, and, you know, he said it, you know what I mean? It was discriminatory. He had no right saying that. And he got $3.5 million for what his manager said to him, and it was wrong. You see, so we're talking about getting paid, baby. We're not talking about no chump change. $100,000, millions of dollars, baby. You know, so it's a possibility you could use this as an opportunity not to have to work no more. You know what I mean? But don't go doing it willfully and maliciously. You know, you do what you're supposed to do, and you do the best that you can. Because, you know, and I said, as I said to you, you know that I love God, but, you know, God will see, we're doing our service unto God. And if you've been treated unfairly, honey, God will reward you. And it might be possible that you have a lawsuit against them right now and don't even know it. So I would suggest, yes, you write to these individuals, all of these organizations. And you can look them up right on the internet, or you can get a copy of my book, You're Fired, which is available on lulu.com, and I include all of the organizations that I talk about here on this program. Now there's another organization called the 1947-1965 Taft-Hartley. Okay, a major turning point in history of the NLRB came in 1947 with passage of the Taft-Hartley Act. Disruptions caused by strikes during World War II, as well as the huge wave of strikes that followed the end of the war, fueled a growing movement in 1946 and 47 to amend the NLRA to correct what critics saw as a pro-labor tilt in the federal law. Okay, wrongful dismissal. Wrongful dismissal, also called wrongful termination or wrongful discharge, is an idiom and legal phrase describing a situation in which employee's contract of employment has been terminated by an employer in circumstances where the termination breaches one or more of the terms of the contract of employment, or a statute provision in the employment law. It follows that the scope of wrongful dismissal varies according to the terms of the employment contract and varies by jurisdiction. In other words, every state has their own. Note that the absence of a formal contract of employment does not preclude wrongful dismissal in jurisdictions in which a de facto contract is taken to exist by virtue of the employment relationship. In other words, if you don't have a written contract, it doesn't mean that you still don't have a lawsuit. A verbal contract is in fact a contract. If you agree to hire me, excuse me, you have in fact initialized a verbal contract. Okay, you have said, I'm going to hire you, and I said, yes, I'm going to accept. So that's a verbal contract. Did you in fact hire Joe Smith on this date here? Yes, I did. That's a contract. Both parties agreed that the act took place. So that's what this is saying. Just because you don't have a written contract, it doesn't mean that you can't sue for wrongful dismissal, or that there's no such thing as a wrongful dismissal. Because there is. Even if you have no contract. Even if you're a temporary employee. Okay? A lot of things go on in these workplaces. You know what I mean? And we, you know, we got to put a stop to this mess. You know, because these employees are getting away with murder. They're doing what they want to do. They still think slavery is still in existence. And they just saying what they want to say. They hire you because they need a something else other than an employee to do the best job that they can do. And then when you don't fit into their little scope or their pattern of what they want, then they're ready to fire you. But they may have done it in a wrongful way. So we got to put these people on notice. Let them know, baby, slavery is over. I'm not going to conform to your way anymore. I'm not doing those things that you asking me to do. You know, because I, you know, not only am I free, but, you know, I'm a woman. And I'm not going to be, you know, debilitating myself, you know, for that reason. I'm qualified for the job. You know, you hired me because I was qualified for the job. And now you're going to fire me because you say I'm not qualified for the job. That within itself should constitute a lawsuit. That's what I believe. So we can still sue. You know, and I would say once you had a job and you get terminated, contact these organizations, keep track of everything that went down, and find out if you got a relationship with you. Because we're talking about getting paid money. You can go down south and get a suntan on the palm of your hands and the palm of your feet, baby, and just chill for the rest of your life, okay? And if you're smart and you can do something with the money to use that money to make more money, then you don't never have to work no more. Your children don't have to work, and none of your relatives don't have to work because you have enough money for the whole family. Okay, come on, somebody talk to me up in here. Okay, now terms of such a contract may include obligations and rights outlined in the employee handbook. There's always an employee handbook. A lot of times they have it online. And so it's your job to make sure you keep that handbook and you take that handbook home. So that's your evidence right there. Okay, being terminated for any of the items listed below may constitute wrongful termination. Okay, we're going to go through those just briefly. Okay, wrongful termination will tend to arise first as a claim by the employee so dismissed. But that means that you have to actually make a complaint. If you sit back and do nothing, or if you complain to your brother and sister, nothing's going to get done. You got to complain to somebody who can get something done. Like I said, our fight has always been, and we should make it, and I'm letting you know that this is where our fight is. Our fight is in the courtroom, and in the boardroom, and in the classroom, and not on the street. No matter how people try to tend to, want to aggravate you and make you angry, you know what I mean, or try to dissuade you or persuade you from not filing a lawsuit or from not, initiating a landlord-tenant action or any kind of court proceeding, you have a legal right to pursue your rights and file a lawsuit. Anybody can file a lawsuit, but the thing is you want to make sure when you file a lawsuit that you can win. Now, like I told you before, I've sued many people before on my own. I've sued them on my behalf. When they did me wrong, I take them right to court, baby. I'm not going to go and bomb your establishment. I'm going to take you to court, and I'm going to hit you where it hurts, in your pocket. And I'm going to let you know what time it is, baby. And I have never lost a case. Never. I've had victory in every case that I have sued. I may not have gotten exactly what I wanted to get. I've sued in Supreme Court. I've sued in civil court. I've sued in landlord-tenant court. And I have never lost a case. And you better believe that. Okay? And to God be the glory on that. Now, wrongful dismissal will tend to arise first as a claim by the employee being so dismissed. That's me or you. Many jurisdictions provide tribunals or courts which will hear actions for wrongful dismissal. Approving wrongful dismissal, where's it at? Will tend to lead to two main remedies: reinstatement of the dismissed employee or monetary compensation for wrongly dismissed. In other words, you either get your job back or you get paid. A related situation is constructive dismissal, in which an employee feels no choice but to resign from employment for reasons imposed by the employer. Okay? One way to avoid potential liability for wrongful dismissal is to institute an employment probation period. This is for the employer, after which a new employee is automatically terminated unless there is sufficient jurisdiction not to do so. The dismissed employee may still assert a claim, but proof will be more difficult, as the employer may have a broad discretion with retaining such a temporary employee. The employer cannot terminate an employee because the employee is a certain race, nationality, religion, sex, age, and or in some cases, jurisdiction, sexual orientation. An employer cannot fire an employee because an employee filed a claim of discrimination or is participating in an investigation for discrimination. In the United States, this retaliation is forbidden under the civil rights law, and that's big money, baby. An employee is not permitted to fire an employee because an employer is not permitted to fire an employee because the employee refuses to commit an illegal act, an act that is illegal. Okay, often the employee handbook or company policy outlines a procedure that must be followed by all before an employee can be terminated. If the employer fires an employee without following this procedure, the employee may have a claim for wrongful termination. Okay? Now, in the United States, there is no single wrongful termination per se law. Rather, there are several state and federal laws and court decisions that define this concept. Employers typically designate their employees to be employees at will. Okay, even in these cases, however, it's usually wrongful termination. Okay, to dismiss an employee on a legally prohibited basis. In the United States, wrongful dismissal has become the most common labor claim. In California, if a termination were based on your membership in a group, okay, protected from discrimination by law, it would not be legal. An employer may not discriminate or terminate a person because of race, religion, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, disability, medical condition, pregnancy, or age. pursuant to the California's Fair Employment and Housing Act, FEHA, and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Okay, now I talked about the Civil Rights Act of 1964 already, so we're going to talk about, actually President John F. Kennedy had helped to initiate that. Okay, what is protected class? According to Wikipedia, the Free Encyclopedia in the United States, federal anti-discrimination law, a protected class, is a characteristic of a person which cannot be targeted for discrimination. The following characteristics are considered protected classes by federal law. Race pertains to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Color pertains to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Religion pertains to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. National origin pertains to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. If you're over 40, Employment Act of 1967. Age discrimination pertains to the Age Discrimination in Employment Act in 1967, publication L number 9202, codified at 29 U.S.C. Subcode 621 through 29 U.S.C. 634. ADEA forbids employment discrimination against anyone at least 40 years of age in the United States. The bill was signed into law in 1967 by President Lyndon Baines Johnson. So if you're 40 or over, and you feel you've been discriminated against on the workplace, this Employment Act, which is called the ADEA, Age Discrimination and Employment Act of 1967, you may have a lawsuit. Just got to write to them and tell them what happened, and they'll be able to determine whether you have a lawsuit or not. Okay? Scope of protection. The ADEA includes a broad ban against age discrimination and also specifically prohibits discrimination in hiring, promotions, wages, or termination of employment and layoffs. Okay? Statements of specifications in job notices or advertisements of age preferences and limitations. Denial of benefits to older employees. An employer may reduce benefits based on age only if the cost of providing the reduced benefits to the older worker is the same as the cost for providing full benefits to the younger workers. Since 1986, it has prohibited mandatory retirement in most sectors with phased elimination of mandatory retirement for tenured workers such as college professors in 1993. Mandatory retirement based on age is permitted for executives over age 65 in high policy-making positions who are entitled to a pension over a minimum yearly amount. So in other words, if you're a customer service representative, you can work till you can drop. Okay? Okay. Now I go into detail. I'll tell you about our creation of the amendments. Now here's another one. Equal Pay Act of 1963. This is definitely going to be a part 2, y'all. Equal Pay Act of 1963 is a United States federal law amending the Fair Labor Standards Act, aiming at abolishing wage disparity based on sex. Okay, it was signed into law on June 10, 1963 by John F. Kennedy as part of the New Frontier program. In passing the bill, Congress stated that sex discrimination depresses wages and living standards for employees necessary for their health and efficiency. Okay, let me just correct this right here. Okay, for their age and efficiency, prevents the maximum utilization of the availability of labor resources, tends to cause labor disputes, thereby burdening, affecting, and obstructing commerce, burdens commerce and the free flow of goods in commerce, and constitutes an unfair method of competition. Now, I'm willing to help you if you need some help in initiating all of this, you know, getting the letter typed up or what have you. And then remember I talked to you before about how to sue the banks so that you can get back some of those overdraft fees, get all of them back. You know, this might be a way that you can sue them also for punitive damages. I'll be holding a workshop on that, and I'll hold a workshop on this so that I can show and help you and show you how you can actually institute. If you're interested in attending either one of the workshops on the blood-sucking banks or the workshops on wrongful termination, then I can be glad to assist you and help you and show you, you know, how to get the paperwork, show you how I did it, let you know how you did it, that you can do it on your own, that you don't need a lawyer. Lawyers are going to charge you an arm and a leg. And whether you get back those legal fees or not, that's a question. So if you're interested in either one of the workshops, either the workshop to get all or some of your overdraft fees back by these bloodsucking banks, or if you're interested in finding out how to sue for wrongful termination and how to get the process started, just email me at sblack3001@gmail.com. Now, you pick your own lawyer, but I may be able to see if I can have a couple of legal aid professionals that will attend the workshop so that they can talk from a legal point of view and tell you exactly what we need. And perhaps even a regular lawyer that does not with the legal aid, that deals in wrongful termination, that can talk to us from a basis of how we can, what things have gone wrong. And then you can tell them what actually happened on the job, and then that pretty much will tell you whether you have a case or not. But it's definitely important. You may have a lawsuit against it. Excuse me. You may have a lawsuit against them, okay? Okay, and you may not even know it. You may not never have to work no more in your life. Or you got to sue them for the wrong that they did against you in the court. Getting one of these organizations involved in that means big money. I mean, you can sue them in court on your own. Question is whether you're going to win. But 9 times out of 10, if you sue them in small claims court, if they feel that they don't have, first of all, if they don't show up, that's automatic default on your behalf. That means that if they don't show up, then you win automatically. And then what you do is you contact the sheriff, and the sheriff will, what you call, expunge the money from their account. You already know where their bank account is because they're a bank. Okay, more than likely they have an account with the bank that they work for. Okay, employers more than likely when they have to hire a lawyer, it's going to cost them a minimum of $10,000 to retain a lawyer. Okay, if you're suing them in small claims court for $5 grand, would it make more sense to pay you $5 grand or to hire a lawyer at 10 grand, spend all this money, and then get bad-mouthed in the press to say, hey, you've been taken to court by this employer. Who is this person? This person, as far as they're concerned, is nobody, but you'll be somebody because you have $5 grand in your pocket when somebody talk to me. Okay, definitely we're going to continue this next week. There's a whole lot to talk about in this case, but if you're interested in attending the workshop that I'll be giving, and I haven't set a date yet, but there'll be information, and then we can, we probably can do it at the library, maybe, maybe downtown library, and we'll set a table up off to the side, and we'll just all meet privately, and I'll show you how to do it and whatnot, and we'll talk, and and then we'll have an official workshop where we'll actually, have to rent a space. And then we'll, be able to just show you what you need to do. Because you may have been wrongfully terminated, and you may have a lawsuit, maybe. And there's no sense in complaining and getting mad and getting high and getting drunk and all of this here when you could be getting paid. Okay? That's the bottom line, honey. That is the bottom line. So I've been talking to you about my book called You're Fired, and I revised it because, as you see, this is a thin version. But I'm getting the new copy, so, but this definitely is not something to play around with. When we got to fight, remember, we got to learn how to fight our battles where we can get results, positive results. I know one time when I went I had a rooming house, but I didn't own the building. And I went to the court to place an eviction, and they had failed to, the clerks behind the counter was trying to tell me that you're wasting your money. I'm like, the nerve of them to tell me that I'm wasting my money. I said it's my money to waste. And they're trying to discourage me from filing an eviction against them when it's my right. Then there was another instance where the judge had denied my legal eviction that I noticed because I was operating in an illegal rooming house. And I should still sue to this day. I should still sue. I think I probably will. I think I will sue. But I want to thank you for joining me today. It's the law. The law is that's why all of these people died and fought for us, so that we can have justice today, so that we can have the ability to fight our battles where they need to be fought, and we can win. There's no reason why we should be discriminated against or be denied opportunities that other people are eligible for, just because of either the color of our skin or because you don't know. The Bible says, my people perish for the lack of knowledge. So it's time for us to stop perishing. It's time for us to start taking advantage of some of these things. If enough of us sue in court and get these people's attention, and whatnot, you don't have to do a class action suit and wait for 100 people to decide I got a complaint. You can do it by yourself. Okay, matter of fact, it might be better that way. You might have a chance to get more money out of them, you know. But if you can get one of these organizations involved in your discrimination suit, you're talking about millions, a million or millions of dollars. You know, at least 100,000. Wouldn't that be nice? You could sit back for the rest of your life. You never have to work. Your children won't have to work. Your family won't have to work. Nobody would have to work because you can build that money. Me, I know I take my money and I build in real estate. And I become a real estate mogul, baby, a millionaire in real estate. That's what I'll do. I take my money and I just buy one house after the other. And I'll travel all around the world and buy real estate wherever it's cheap. Hire property management companies to sit and manage I would hire my own people to work, not an exterior management company, but you be on my payroll. And you be working for me in those countries, in those cities. But yeah, baby, time is coming, baby, for all of us. Like I told you, it's harvest time. It's time for us to start reaping the rewards and whatnot that the land has been out there, laid out there for us. You know, we've been discriminated against for years. Employees been saying things out their mouth. They've been hiring you. And minimum wage now is $10, by the way. So if you're working for $9.75, that's against the law. You can contact one of these organizations and they can sue the employer for not paying you what you're supposed to get. You know, and if they don't have the money, what they do, you know, if they're too small to do that, they'll be out of business. You thought that you were saving money by paying me $9.75 when the minimum wage went up to $10? It's your responsibility to make sure that you're aware of when the minimum wage is going up. And I'm sure that you get a notice from the governing agency that where the wages go up at, letting you know minimum wage has gone up. Because I remember when I was looking for a job, when minimum wage went up from $5 or $6, it went up from $6, it went up to $7.15. And I called up this employer because I wanted a job, and he's telling me, we can still pay you $5 an hour. See, my job, what I should have did, when I should have got a job with him for $5 and then sued him for paying me $5. Okay, don't turn away no job because you feel that they're discriminating or whatnot. Get the job, you know, because then you'll have an opportunity to sue. Once you're working, if you don't work, then you can't sue. So if they say they only pay, go get the job for $5. Let them pay you $5. Get that first paycheck and then file a lawsuit against them while you're still working there, saying they're not paying me minimum wage. And then you can sue them. Oh, this is definitely... Well, I want to thank you for joining me today, and I want to ask you to join me next week right here on Time Warner Public Access TV Channel 20 for Real Estate, Religion, and You, Wednesdays 6:30 to 7 and Saturdays from 12:30 to 1. Well, I'm going to be talking about this some more. We're going to pick up with Equal Pay Act of 1963. And I should holler at the sister. Peace out. You can always get a copy of the book on lulu.com. It's available right now. So holler at a sister, y'all.